So good evening everyone, my name's Caroline and I'm the Wellbeing Practitioner at Carers in Bedfordshire, and this evening we're going to be talking about wellbeing and nutrition. So we're going to be looking at what is wellbeing and nutrition. These might be words that you're familiar with or words that you kind of have heard before but you're not quite sure what they mean, and that's what we're going to be going through. We're going to have a look at the link between wellbeing and nutrition and how these interact with each other. Thinking about how the food we eat affects our brain. We're going to then go through 5 foods that promote positive well-being. Obviously there's more than 5, but just kind of going through a couple of examples. And then also thinking about how the food that we eat affects our guts. And then what is a balanced diet? Obviously a balanced diet is maybe a kind of a term that we've heard quite a lot, but we don't necessarily know what it looks like. And even the word diet, a lot of the time people just think it's eating less, but not necessarily true. It's kind of eating more of the right things and fueling our body to kind of make sure that we have the energy and nutrients to kind of grow. And then kind of we're going to take some time to understand those cravings that we all get from time to time. And then kind of at the end, we're going to think about what changes can I make personally. And like I said, if you've got any questions as we go along, feel free to ask away or write them in the chat. The session is being recorded, so if you don't feel comfortable, it's kind of speaking out loud, that's also okay, I completely understand. But as the session comes to the end, I'll stop the recording and you can feel that you can kind of speak a bit more freely maybe. So what is well-being? So well-being is a state of being comfortable, healthy or happy. So this is kind of both with our physical and our mental health, feeling that we're able to cope with situations, feeling confident in ourselves, feeling that we're able to kind of go about our day-by-day business, and we all have well-being. So my job as wellbeing practitioner, I want to promote positive well-being, but it's not, none of us feel happy all the time. It's completely normal to have low days or feel kind of angry, frustrated. All those feelings are completely valid, but kind of well-being is our emotional state in general. And then what is nutrition? So nutrition is the process of providing or obtaining the necessary food for health and growth. So kind of providing nutrients to your body to help you grow. So the link between well-being and nutrition. So this can look like quite a scary diagram, but quite simply eating a good quality diet of, for example, healthy fats, cutting down on fast food, eating lots of fruit and vegetables, having foods that are high in fibre, kind of promotes our mental health through hormonal and inflammatory and neural pathways, and that can increase our mood, it can decrease stress, it reduces the risk of illness, and it increases our cognitive function, so the way our brain's able to function, and that then impacts our physical health. So for example, if we are looking after our bodies, we are going to be at a more healthy weight, we're going to be at lower risk of, say, cardiovascular conditions or specific types of cancers or other health behaviours, and also can help with things like insulin sensitivity with kind of diabetes. So as you can see, the arrows are kind of going all the way around. So our physical health affects our diet. So examples, we might have physical cravings for particular things that we are lacking in our body, and that's what we have cravings for. Our physical health kind of might be declining, and we might reach for comfort foods or kind of alcohol or things that help us cope in the short term. Or it might be situational factors like the ease of food around us, how easy it is for us to get to the supermarket or to kind of make healthy food choices. And then kind of with our mental health and a good quality diet, there's also lots of psychological and social factors. So again, it could be kind of where's close to you to buy your food, when you have time to go and buy your food, if you're feeling quite low and you don't have energy to go out for a food shop or make a really delicious dinner, you might just kind of grab something that's easy to go. And a lot of the time the things that are kind of easy to grab are kind of maybe the unhealthier options, like it's easier to go and grab a McDonald's than it is to kind of cook up a big dinner. So kind of it's all interlinked. So if we are making really positive food choices, that affects our brains and it affects our body, and kind of that promotes a really positive cycle. Whereas if we are not providing our brains and bodies with the right nutrients, we can really struggle, both physically and mentally. So it's really important to kind of have a look at our nutrition in ways that we can promote positive well-being through our food. So we're going to watch a video together, and I'll play a couple of seconds and hopefully you can hear sound. If you can't, just write in the chat, and I'll try and fix it. But so this is a video from one of the TED Talks about how the food we eat affects our brain.
If you sucked all of the moisture out of your brain and broke it down to its constituent nutritional content, what would it look like? Most of the weight of your dehydrated brain would come from fats, also known as lipids. In the remaining brain matter, you would find proteins and amino acids, traces of micronutrients, and glucose. The brain is, of course, more than just the sum of its nutritional parts, but each component does have a distinct impact on functioning, development, mood, and energy. So that post-lunch apathy or late-night alertness you might be feeling, well, that could simply be the effects of food on your brain. Of the fats in your brain, the superstars are omegas 3 and 6. These essential fatty acids, which have been linked to preventing degenerative brain conditions, must come from our diets. So eating omega-rich foods like nuts, seeds, and fatty fish is crucial to the creation and maintenance of cell membranes. And while omegas are good fats for your brain, long-term consumption of other fats, like trans and saturated fats, may compromise brain health. Meanwhile, proteins and amino acids, the building block nutrients of growth and development, manipulate how we feel and behave. Amino acids contain the precursors to neurotransmitters, the chemical messengers that carry signals between neurons, affecting things like mood, sleep, attentiveness, and weight. They're one of the reasons we might feel calm after eating a large plate of pasta, or more alert after a protein-rich meal. The complex combinations of compounds in food can stimulate brain cells to release mood-altering norepinephrine, dopamine, and serotonin. But getting to your brain cells is tricky, and amino acids have to compete for limited access. A diet with a range of foods helps maintain a balanced combination of brain messengers and keeps your mood from getting skewed in one direction or the other. Like the other organs in our bodies, our brains also benefit from a steady supply of micronutrients. Antioxidants in fruits and vegetables strengthen the brain to fight off free radicals that destroy brain cells, enabling your brain to work well for a longer period of time. And without powerful micronutrients like the vitamins B6, B12, and folic acid, our brains would be susceptible to brain disease and mental decline. Trace amounts of the minerals iron, copper, zinc, and sodium are also fundamental to brain health and early cognitive development. In order for the brain to efficiently transform and synthesize these valuable nutrients, it needs fuel, and lots of it. While the human brain only makes up about 2% of our body weight, it uses up to 20% of our energy resources. Most of this energy comes from carbohydrates that our body digests into glucose or blood sugar. The frontal lobes are so sensitive to drops in glucose, in fact, that a change in mental function is one of the primary signals of nutrient deficiency. Assuming that we are getting glucose regularly, how does the specific type of carbohydrates we eat affect our brains? Carbs come in 3 forms: starch, sugar, and fiber. While on most nutrition labels, they are all lumped into one total carb count, the ratio of the sugar and fiber subgroups to the whole amount affect how the body and brain respond. A high glycemic food, like white bread, causes a rapid release of glucose into the blood, and then comes the dip. Blood sugar shoots down, and with it, our attention span and mood. On the other hand, oats, grains, and legumes have slower glucose release, enabling a steadier level of attentiveness. For sustained brain power, opting for a varied diet of nutrient-rich foods is critical. When it comes to what you bite, chew, and swallow, your choices have a direct and long-lasting effect on the most powerful organ in your body.
Yeah, so hopefully that video was helpful and kind of made sense that kind of the different foods that we eat has effect on our brain. It affects our mood, it affects the energy release, and all those sorts of things. And we're going to talk about now kind of different foods that help promote positive well-being. But like I said, the session is being recorded and you'll get kind of links to be able to kind of watch these videos again, because I know it can be quite tricky taking in all the jargon after just one view. But if you've got any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or ask me at the end. So 5 foods that promote positive well-being. Complex carbohydrates. So like we saw in the video, there's different types of carbohydrates, and for things like sugary white breads and kind of white rice, kind of those sort of carbohydrates, we have that sharp increase of energy, which can be good in the short term, but then we maybe feel a bit sluggish afterwards. We might feel really tired, a bit irritable because the energy drops. Whereas other things like porridge, oats, beans, all things like that, bananas, can keep us at a more steady energy level for longer. Then we've got antioxidants, which is a lot of kind of fruits. Mainly we see antioxidants in brightly coloured foods, so you can see it in the picture in blueberries and kind of superfoods like papaya, mango, pineapple, those sorts of things have really helpful benefits, and I'll go into some more detail about each one of these. Prebiotics and probiotic, so kind of pickled items like olives, pickled onions, kombucha, kimchi, which is like spiced cabbage, pickled gherkins, some types of yogurts, things like that can be really helpful for well-being. B vitamins, which is in a lot of fruit and vegetables, and omega-3s, which is in things like avocado, nuts, fish, seeds and oils. So complex carbohydrates such as fruit, vegetables and whole grains are really helpful as they benefit our brain health. They keep our brains active, they keep us able to concentrate, able to think, able to problem solve. It fuels these brain cells so that we're able to function. So kind of that's really important to have a nice big breakfast before you have an exam or a test or kind of any kind of big decisions to make. They release glucose slowly into our system. So like we showed in the video, that kind of steady line upwards of glucose, that sugar into our body, so we can kind of keep energized for longer. And it also helps to stabilize our mood. We don't get that kind of rapid up and down. Complex carbohydrates help us feel fuller for longer, and kind of releasing that glucose slowly helps to stabilize our mood, so we're not feeling kind of like we're changing from 0 to 100 really quickly, whether that's kind of feeling really emotional, feeling really angry, just feeling like we're snapping all the time. Complex carbohydrates can be really helpful for that. So antioxidants, brightly coloured fruit and veg. They defense against oxidative stress and inflammation in the brain and the body. So they're really beneficial, and often called superfoods, but they help all that stress and inflammation in your brain and body, so it's got mental and physical benefits. They also help to increase those feel-good chemicals, which increases your mood, increase your motivation to do things, and just kind of helps you feel better overall. And like I said, it heightens your mood. So if you're kind of feeling low, reaching for kind of fruit and veg is often going to have a better effect on you than kind of maybe those comfort foods that we might reach, like a chocolate bar, a pack of crisps, a glass of wine, anything like that. And then the third one is prebiotics and probiotics. So yogurt, cheese, the fermented foods that I mentioned, like kombucha, kimchi, olives, kind of things that you can see in the picture, pickled cabbage, pickled onions, all those sorts of things. And these suppress immune reactions in the body. These reduce brain inflammation. They also decrease depressed and anxious states. So if you're kind of maybe feeling a bit more anxious or really low, these are often really good things to help into kind of defense of these feelings. And they help to elevate those happy moods and lift your spirits. The fourth one is B vitamins. So these are green vegetables, beans, bananas, beetroots. A lot of those kind of B word foods often have B vitamins in them. But these are really helpful as kind of high levels of B6, B12 and folate help protect against depression. You can often get kind of supplement tablets that have these vitamins in it, but kind of if you have green vegetables, beans, kind of fruit and veg, you're getting more than just that particular B vitamin, you're getting a whole host of benefits. And if we have a vitamin B deficiency, that reduces happy chemicals in our brain. So it's really helpful to have these things to help elevate our mood. And often when we're not having enough of these vitamins, we can feel particularly low or feel a bit particularly sluggish and feel like we're not able to concentrate or problem solve things to the best of our abilities. And then the fourth food to promote positive well-being is omega-3. So these are fatty acids. So oily fish, nuts, seeds, so sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, kind of pine nuts, kind of as you can see in the picture, there's walnuts, there's almonds, pistachios, all those sorts of things are really helpful. So leafy vegetables, salads, spinach, watercress, all those sorts of things. Eggs and kind of grass-fed meats all have omega-3 in them. And these help to increase our brain functioning, and they also help to slow down the progression of dementia, and it also improves symptoms of depression. Kind of omega-3 is a mood elevator, so it can help us feel a bit better. And for omega-3 as well, if we're not comfortable, some people maybe are vegan or vegetarian, so don't feel comfortable eating meat and fish, but you can obviously get it from nuts, seeds and leafy vegetables. But you can also get like omega-3 oil that you would use in replacement of olive oil, or you can get kind of omega-3 supplements as well. But obviously for supplements and things like that, it's best to consult a pharmacist or your GP that knows your medical history, as they can advise you a lot better than I can. So now we've looked at kind of foods that can help with our well-being and our brain. We're going to have a watch of this video about how the food we eat affects your gut, so kind of how it can affect our bodies.
Trillions of bacteria, viruses, and fungi live on or inside of us, and maintaining a good, balanced relationship with them is to our advantage. Together, they form the gut microbiome, a rich ecosystem that performs a variety of functions in our bodies. The bacteria in our guts can break down food the body can't digest, produce important nutrients, regulate the immune system, and protect against harmful germs. We don't yet have the blueprint for exactly which good bacteria a robust gut needs, but we do know that it's important for a healthy microbiome to have a variety of bacterial species. Many factors affect our microbiomes, including our environment, medications like antibiotics, and even whether we were delivered by C-section or not. Diet, too, is emerging as one of the leading influences on the health of our guts. And while we can't control all these factors, we can manipulate the balance of our microbes by paying attention to what we eat. Dietary fiber from foods like fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, and whole grains is the best fuel for gut bacteria. When bacteria digest fiber, they produce short-chain fatty acids that nourish the gut barrier, improve immune function, and can help prevent inflammation, which reduces the risk of cancer. And the more fiber you ingest, the more fiber-digesting bacteria colonize your gut. In a recent study, scientists exchanged the regular high-fiber diets of a group of rural South Africans with the high-fat, meat-heavy diets of a group of African Americans. After just 2 weeks on the high-fat, low-fiber, Western-style diet, the rural African group showed increased inflammation of the colon as well as a decrease of butyrate. That's a short-chain fatty acid thought to lower risk of colon cancer. Meanwhile, the group that switched to a high-fiber, low-fat diet had the opposite result. So what goes wrong with our gut bacteria when we eat low-fiber processed foods? Lower fiber means less fuel for the gut bacteria, essentially starving them until they die off. This results in less diversity and hungry bacteria. In fact, some can even start to feed on the mucus lining. We also know that specific foods can affect gut bacteria. In one recent microbiome study, scientists found that fruits, vegetables, tea, coffee, red wine, and dark chocolate were correlated with increased bacterial diversity. These foods contain polyphenols, which are naturally occurring antioxidant compounds. On the other hand, foods high in dairy fat, like whole milk, and sugar-sweetened sodas were correlated with decreased diversity. How food is prepared also matters. Minimally processed, fresh foods generally have more fiber and provide better fuel. So lightly steamed, sautéed, or raw vegetables are typically more beneficial than fried dishes. There are also ways of preparing food that can actually introduce good bacteria, also known as probiotics, into your gut. Fermented foods are teeming with helpful probiotic bacteria like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria. Originally used as a way of preserving foods before the invention of refrigeration, fermentation remains a traditional practice all over the world. Foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, tempeh, and kombucha provide variety and vitality to our diets. Yogurt is another fermented food that can introduce helpful bacteria into our guts. That doesn't necessarily mean that all yogurt is good for us, though. Brands with too much sugar and not enough bacteria may not actually help. These are just general guidelines. More research is needed before we fully understand exactly how any of these foods interact with our microbiomes. We see positive correlations, but the insides of our guts are difficult places to make direct observations. For instance, we don't currently know whether these foods are directly responsible for the changes in diversity, or if something more complicated is happening. While we're only beginning to explore the vast wilderness inside our guts, we already have a glimpse of how crucial our microbiomes are for digestive health. The great news is, we have the power to fire up the bacteria in our bellies. Fill up on fibers, fresh and fermented foods, and you can trust your gut to keep you going strong.
So again, hopefully that video has been helpful to kind of visually show you what kind of goes on in your gut when you eat particular foods. And like it kind of said, it crossed over with some of those foods that kind of promote positive well-being. For example, probiotics are helpful for both our brains and our stomachs and our bodies. So kind of making small changes can really increase our well-being in general, both our physical and mental health. So now we're going to have a look at what is a balanced diet. So you might have seen images like these on the screen before, kind of showing you kind of what a typical plate should look like, or what sort of things that you should be eating, but it can often be a bit confusing about what is good to eat, what shouldn't I eat, what is a balanced diet, what am I eating too much of, what am I not eating enough of. It's kind of hard to know what to do. And like kind of in the video we just watched said, it's quite a complicated thing, and for each of us our gut and our brain health might be quite different. For some of us, we have allergies, or we have intolerances or sensitivities to certain foods, or it might just be things like our taste. We're not used to certain food taste or textures or colours, so we have to kind of maybe take some time to explore different foods and kind of see what's out there and what things that we might like and want to introduce more of. But in general, kind of having a balanced diet is about eating across all the food groups, kind of having good carbohydrates, protein, which can be from dairy and meats, but it also can come from kind of plant-based alternatives. There's lots of kind of great vegan options out there, or vegetarian options if you're kind of wanting to cut down on your meat consumption. But you can also get protein from things like chickpeas or other legumes, or kind of other things like that, and kind of just knowing where to look. Also, when we hear the word fat, often we think that's a bad thing, but there are good fats in things like nuts and avocados, and those things can be really helpful, and we do need to have some of those fats in our diet as well. Eating fruit as well is really helpful, although they are kind of carbohydrates. Again, they're really great, lots of antioxidants within them, and again, vegetables are really, really important for us. They have lots of great nutrients in them, and kind of like in the video before we're saying, kind of having them kind of sauteed or raw, kind of eating some carrot sticks, cucumber sticks, kind of whatever things that you like, can help with giving you extra nutrients and not kind of getting rid of them through the cooking process. So this is another video that kind of talks about what a balanced diet looks like.
Maintaining a healthy body is like baking the perfect cake. We need the right proportion of ingredients to ensure the cake is delicious and tasty. So what is the balanced diet that our body needs? There are 7 major food groups: carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals, vitamins, fiber, and water. Do you know what types of food we get these different groups from? Pause the video and have a think. There are just a few options.
So I'll pause it here now so you can kind of see, and I'll go through them. So we can find carbohydrates in pasta, rice, oats, potatoes, noodles, yams, sweet potatoes, couscous, bread, and cereals. We can find protein in meat, fish, eggs, milk and dairy products, nuts, beans, peas, lentils, soya. We can find fats in meat, cheese, milk, eggs, nuts, oils, and oily fish. We can find minerals like calcium within milk, cheese, and eggs, whole grain cereals, green vegetables, bread, and tofu. And we can find things like iron in red meat, green vegetables such as spinach, watercress, eggs, lentils, and bread. We get a lot of our vitamins through fruit and veg, milk, oily fish, mackerel, or liver. And we get fibre through fruit, veg, and different grains. And then we can get water just kind of in its natural form from our taps, but we can also get it from food. For example, kind of cucumber has quite a high water content, and so does celery. Other drinks, like even if you have a squash, you're putting water in that. That is actually a form of water, or a cup of tea and coffee, things like that. And also kind of the metabolic process, such as aerobic respiration. So when we're exercising and we're kind of just breathing, we kind of take in natural water as well from the air around us.
Let's have a look at the different roles these groups play in maintaining a healthy body. Carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the body's main source of energy and also give us calcium and B vitamins. They should make up the largest proportion of our diet, and whole grain versions are particularly good because they also provide fiber. Our body needs energy to survive, and if we don't eat carbs, then our body will break down protein instead, which can mean taking protein from our muscles to provide the energy instead. So eat carbs to save your muscles. Protein. Proteins are strong, powerful little molecules. Proteins control every single function of our cells and organs and are the building blocks of life. They provide us with the means to grow and repair. Proteins are made from smaller units called amino acids, of which there are 22 different ones. Our body can't make 9 of these amino acids, and so we have to take these 9 in through our diet. This is the important part. Proteins from animal-based proteins have a large range of these 9 amino acids in. They are more complete protein sources. Whereas plant-based products, although they can be high in protein, they often don't have a large range of different types of amino acids from one source, and so we need to combine a few different protein sources to get a complete profile, something to be aware of. Fats. Everyone seems to be a little scared of them, but actually they're extremely important for a healthy, balanced diet. We need fats for growth, development, and to just function. We store them for use as energy at later dates. They're used in cell functions and must be taken in through the diet as our body can't make them. They insulate our nerve cells, they're in our cell membranes, they transport vitamins, and they're found in steroid hormones. Fats are essential for a healthy, balanced diet. So just remember, fats don't make you fat, eating too many calories does. Vitamins. There's a whole variety of different vitamins, so let's keep it general. Vitamins are necessary for growth and for our cells to function normally. We cannot make them, so we must take them in through our diet. We only need them in tiny amounts, and provided you eat a varied diet, balanced in proteins, carbohydrates, fats, fruit and veg, you almost definitely have them in ample amounts. If we're deficient in any vitamins, then it negatively affects our health, so make sure you eat a varied and balanced diet. Minerals. Minerals are essential. They're important for us to build strong bones and teeth, blood, skin, hair, etc. They're involved in nerve function, muscles, and for metabolic processes. To be healthy, to grow and repair, we need minerals. Just like vitamins, if you eat a varied and balanced diet, then chances are you're taking in the minerals that you need. Although, often children, pregnant and breastfeeding mothers, and older people need to adjust their intake of certain minerals. Fibre, roughage, call it what you like. This indigestible carbohydrate is very important for our intestines. They balance out the fat and carbohydrate absorption so that we don't have sudden energy surges. They regulate bowel movements and help to speed up the removal of waste and toxins. Fibre equals a happy gut. Although it does come with one little warning. If you're eating fibrous food, you must also drink lots of water because fibre can dehydrate you, which leads us perfectly onto the importance of water. The fact that we're about 2/3 water goes to show just how important the liquid of life is. Water keeps our blood flowing, it maintains the health and strength of all of our cells, it eliminates waste products from metabolism, we use it to regulate our body temperature by sweating, and the list continues. About 20% of our water intake comes from our food, and then we need to make sure we're drinking lots. In fact, most headaches are actually caused because we're dehydrated, so get that glass of water and start drinking. So there we have the main food groups. The simple thing to remember is to have a varied diet and that you wash down with lots of water.
If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, comment.
Yeah, it's also helpful to know kind of that last one with water, that often when we feel that we're hungry or feeling a bit snacky, and we might actually be dehydrated. So having a kind of a glass of water first can actually kind of help us kind of rehydrate and reduce those headaches. Fab. So this is again kind of a food pyramid. You might have seen it before, that kind of goes through the food groups. So kind of recapping on what the video mentioned. So vitamins and minerals are needed to keep the body healthy. Fibre is helps to keep your intestines healthy and prevent constipation. We need carbohydrates for energy to keep our brains and our bodies going. Proteins are really important for growth and repair, and again, that's our brains and our bodies. And fats are really helpful to help store that energy. So now we're going to have a look at understanding cravings. So I think we kind of all have times that we kind of really fancy a particular something, and those are all really natural feelings to have, and often our cravings for certain things can be a sign that we're maybe kind of being deficient in a certain vitamin, or we actually need, our body's telling us, oh, I need a particular thing in my diet. For example, with the dehydration, often when we are thirsty, our body tells us that we're hungry because we get 20% of our water intake through food. So it knows if I eat something, I'm going to get a bit more water in my body to kind of fuel how I'm going. So kind of one of the first cravings I'm going to go through is chocolate. So if we're craving chocolate, it's normally that we actually are needing some magnesium. And so alternatives to chocolate, you might want to reach for the chocolate if you are kind of, studies have shown that dark chocolate's better for you than kind of milk or white due to the high levels of cocoa in it. But to kind of get that magnesium through other sources, we can have some nuts, have some seeds, try some fruit or vegetables, kind of whatever your preference is, but those are another sources of magnesium. The next craving, sugary foods. That might be sweets, it might be kind of a donut, pastry, things like that. Often we crave those things, and when we're craving, we actually need chromium, carbon, phosphorus, sulfur, or tryptophan. Sorry, I can't pronounce them all. But yeah, so kind of might be any one of these things. So if it's chromium, we can get that through broccoli, grapes, cheese, and chicken. If it's carbon, we can get that through fresh fruits. If it's phosphorus, we can get it through meat, so chicken, beef, fatty fish, eggs, dairy, or nuts. For sulfur, we can get that through cranberries, cabbage, cauliflower, and tryptophan we can get from cheese, raisins, sweet potatoes, or spinach. So I know not as exciting as the typical pastries, but often these things we can kind of have fruit or maybe some dairy that maybe is a bit sweeter, that kind of helps us get those right nutrients in our body. You might also have cravings for bread, pasta, or carbs. So that might be pizza, that might be a baguette, anything like that. And often we have those cravings when we are needing nitrogen in our body. And we can get that nitrogen in our body through high protein foods. So meat or fatty fish, or kind of meat alternatives. We can get it through nuts, we can get it through beans, things like chia seeds as well. Can be really helpful. You can sprinkle them into smoothies, or you can make them into desserts. Kind of, there's lots of recipes and things online. Then we might want oily food, kind of feel that we need that kind of oily taste, and often that is because we are lacking in calcium. And we can get that through organic milk, cheese, or leafy green vegetables, so salads, spinach, watercress, kind of all those sorts of things. And then often at times we might also crave salty food, so it might be a packet of crisps, and it might just kind of be putting extra salt on some of your foods, or kind of lots of butter with salt in it. And that often can be when we are feeling deficient in chloride or silicon. And we can get that from fatty fish or goat milk, or we can get silicon from cashews, other nuts, and seeds. So hopefully kind of having a look there, you can kind of think about when you're having particular cravings for particular foods, and thinking about kind of alternatives to reach for instead, or kind of thinking about actually these cravings are a sign that my body is lacking a certain nutrient, and I want to kind of fuel my body by kind of giving it the nutrients that it needs. So now I know we've kind of talked a lot, I've talked a lot, and we've kind of watched a couple of videos about kind of how our nutrition affects our brains and our bodies, and kind of a number of foods that we can eat to promote positive well-being. But kind of thinking about now, what changes can I make to help my well-being and nutrition? What kind of things are going to benefit me? And I'm going to kind of go through a couple of examples. And for some of these things, you might kind of already be making these changes. For some of them, it might be a bit harder. And for some of it, you might not know where to start. And it's actually just thinking now of keeping a food diary of kind of what typically that you eat. There's apps like MyFitnessPal, which you can scan the barcodes of things and it tells you the nutritional value, so you kind of know what you're eating. Keeping a journal like the person in the picture does. For example, kind of in the pictures where they kind of got carrot sticks there, having healthy snacks available so they're easy to grab. So maybe that's kind of preparing food in advance. For some people, having a meal plan or kind of typical days that they have set meals can be really helpful, just to plan it out so they kind of know what they're having and they don't just kind of reach for something last minute. Yeah, and kind of for kind of, well, one thing we'll go through as well, kind of reducing caffeine can really help. If we have too much caffeine, it can increase our heart rate, and it can also increase kind of anxious feelings and feelings of stress. So kind of reducing that can be really beneficial for us. So one thing that also can be really helpful is reducing our alcohol intake. So as we know, alcohol is a natural depressant, so it's naturally going to lower our mood, hence why maybe kind of the day after you don't feel as good. It impacts the chemical makeup of the brain. It slows down kind of your problem solving, your reasoning. You think more short term than long term. and kind of can impact your memory as well, and it kind of affects a lot of the areas of the brain. Often people use alcohol as self-medication or as a coping strategy because it temporarily alleviates, because it reduces the brain functioning. It can make us forget things that we want to forget, or kind of distract us from whatever's going on in our life. But it is a short-term thing, but whereas in the long term it reduces our energy levels, it impacts functioning of our central nervous system, it causes more mood fluctuation, and being a natural depressant, the more we have, the more low our mood's going to go. So it's kind of, although it might sometimes help in the short term, it's not kind of the best long term. You're a bit better reaching for something that kind of helps you feel a bit better, whether that's kind of having a nice long bath, spending time talking to a friend, writing about how you're feeling, engaging in a hobby, watching your favorite film, kind of doing something that distracts yourself in a different way, so you don't kind of have more long-term negative effects. The next one is drinking more water. So like we saw in the video, our body is 2/3 water, our brain needs water to function, and kind of just drinking more can have a lot of benefits. Even drinking a little bit more can help our mood. Water itself is a natural mood booster, so a really good way to help ourselves feel better, just having a glass of water. Drinking water reduces our temper levels. It reduces confusion and extra tension in our body, both kind of physically and mentally. So it has kind of real benefits for us, kind of helps us feel less irritable and kind of able to concentrate. So kind of thinking about, okay, so what ways can I get more water into my daily routine? So just having a glass with every meal, just kind of getting into a habit of just having that at breakfast, lunch, at dinner, or whenever you have a snack, just kind of getting into that habit helps it become easier to get it in your diet. Adding flavour to your water. There's lots of kind of different alternatives out there. You can obviously have squash. I know they've got like the cold infusion tea bags that you can add to like a bottle of water to make it taste nicer, because not everyone likes the taste of water. You can add slices of lemon, lime, kind of mint leaves, fresh berries, absolutely anything that can give your water a little bit of taste that makes it more palatable for you. Sometimes it can also be helpful to mark your bottle. So say you had something like this, so you can't see because I've got a filter on, but something like this, you might want to mark it that you have a certain amount by a certain time of the day, or that you want to finish a certain number of bottles in the day. I know some bottles come with it already marked, which can be really helpful, or come with like a clicker so you can turn it every time you fill up that bottle, so you can keep a track of it. Kind of always topping up the water bottle so it's never empty, so kind of taking it around with you, keeping it on your desk or in sight can be really helpful. And yeah, that's keeping the water bottle close by, and kind of every time that kind of it's for coming up empty, kind of going and topping up, kind of making an active effort to make sure you're prepared. We're just kind of taking your water bottle out with you when you go outside. Create a target for how much water you will drink per day. So there might be just thinking now, how much water do I typically drink in a day, and what can I feasibly increase that to, sorry. So for some people, you might already drink quite a lot of water and it's just kind of having that extra cup. For some of us, drinking water can feel really hard because we don't like the taste of it. So maybe it's just kind of just having that little bit more, whether it's having a squash or a cup of tea or something else. Eating more fish to get omega-3 is really, really beneficial as well. So it's a natural mood booster, and it can give a long-term mood lift if we have omega-3 rich diets. So omega-3 fatty acids of EPA and DHA, I'm not going to try and pronounce those, help symptoms of low mood. So if we're feeling really low or feeling really depressed, actually omega-3 can help reduce those symptoms and kind of help us feel a bit better. And they do that because these fatty acids interact with mood-related molecules and have inflammatory actions that can reduce stress and depression. And if you don't eat fish, you can try omega-3 supplement. You can get omega-3, like I said earlier, you get omega-3 oil that you would use just as you would another cooking oil, that kind of helps keep it in your diet, or you can use it kind of within your salad dressing, or you can kind of get capsules or tablets. But again, if you're going to take supplements, I really recommend consulting with a GP or talking to someone at the pharmacy, or kind of just reading those packet labels, just to make sure it's not going to interact with any of your current medication or previous medical history. Cutting out artificial sweeteners. So I know this is a bit of a tricky one, because now we've got excuse me, now we've got the sugar tax. A lot of our maybe typical go-to drinks, especially, instead of having sugar, they have sweeteners instead. But there's no such thing as a good artificial sweetener. They're just ones that are more harmful than others, because they are artificial. They are not naturally produced. They can have really negative effects on our body, and some people can have really adverse reactions to them. And again, you're kind of going to know your body. You're going to know if you're one of those people that can't kind of stomach a sweetener, but kind of thinking of ways to kind of cut them out or go for different alternatives. So artificial sweeteners in general have been linked in research with anxiety levels and depression, because the sugar causes spikes in mood, and then it kind of, you have that dip several hours afterwards, which kind of leave you feeling de-energized, lethargic, and it can also lead to headaches and increased anxiety and stress levels. So you might feel kind of good straight after with that energy boost, but then afterwards, kind of those long-term effects kind of don't really seem worth it. So cutting out those artificial sweeteners and sugar can help your mood feel more balanced. You're not kind of experiencing that up and down dip as much. Reducing heavy caffeine intake. So caffeine can affect neuron development and physiology. So kind of affects your brain and your body. Similar to sugar, you have that caffeine boost, and then you have that dip afterwards. So kind of reducing it where you can kind of helps keep your mood more stable. So short-term benefits: it improves performance, cognitive function, and fat utilization. But over time, our tolerance can decrease. So we might experience those short-term benefits after maybe a 1 cup of coffee, but the more we have it, that tolerance to it does decrease. So we're more susceptible to it. And it can also impact our sleep. Obviously, caffeine is designed to help keep us awake and improve our performance and keep us alert. And obviously, if we're kind of having that all the time, we will feel alert more than we normally do, which then can impact our sleep cycle. So especially kind of cutting out caffeine, going for a decaf option, maybe around midday or later in the afternoon, so it kind of is not impacting your sleeping pattern. And also caffeine, as it increases our performance and our attention, it does that by kind of alerting certain pathways in the brain and kind of increasing your heart rate, and that can then impact your stress levels, your anxiety and nervousness, because obviously we experience those symptoms of stress, anxiety and nervousness as kind of increased heart rates, butterflies in our stomach, sweaty palms, and those are all kind of symptoms when we have too much caffeine. Yeah, so kind of I've gone through all that. I hope that's been helpful. Like I said, I'll send the recording out to everyone, and I'll stop the recording in a second, and then you can answer any questions that you may have. But if you want to kind of know anything else about wellbeing, you can contact us at the Carers in Bedfordshire office number, which is 0300 111 1919. If you would like more information about wellbeing, you can email myself at wellbeing@carersinbeds.org.uk, or you can email myself directly. My name is Caroline Carter, so it's caroline.carter@carersinbeds.org.uk. And then if you want to kind of find out more about the things that we've got on for this week as Mental Health Awareness Week or further afield, and you can look on our website at www.carersinbeds.org.uk, and we have lots of other kind of events on, and we would kind of love to see you there. So I'm going to stop recording now, and if you kind of want to ask any questions, please feel free to.